show you this great little clip here
of Mr. Clinton.
Because
everybody thought he was the best thing going.
You know, it's so funny is how
how we can look back now and realize how fucked up people were.
I believe that together we can make America great again.
Oh, what'd you say, Bill? Oh, hold on.
I believe
Let me turn it up for you.
can make America great again.
I was fine when he says it. Ah, look at Donnie. So
again, what I tell you?
No. We're not going to go on that. I'm just going to say I had to throw that jab.
You got to say that shit properly, man.
Good old Bill. Good old Bill. He made America great again by 94 Crime Bill with his good old buddy.
Was Sleepy Joe?
Sleepy Joe. So basically, what I've learned is the I've always thought that Clinton was a good president besides the that he went down with.
Hey, I still don't see nothing wrong with it, man.
But he did a little bit of backhand deals where he sort of corporatized the Democratic Party in my mind, because they used to look out for the good guy and like the small guy, so they say. And
he pulled a Republican, baby.
Yeah, basically, like we support business, and all of a sudden he's like, well, how are we gonna win? It's like, well, gotta get tough on crime.
I said
we gotta raise the bar.
That's really what helped him.
Helped him a lot.
Especially a lot of Republicans voted for him too. Like, you don't just win.
94 Crime Bill,
which screwed people.
So basically, I watched the documentary 13.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I think that was what you were trying to get out in the last podcast we talked about. It was weird because I thought we'd talked about the documentary 13 a while ago.
Yeah, it was a minute ago.
The documentary 13 is just basically about
the 13th Amendment.
13th Amendment, but also it has more to do with the
ramifications of it.
Well, but also the prison population today and how it's out of control the way it got there. And the biggest problem I have with the 94 Crime Bill is statistically, which we'll get into next, the stats do show that it dropped crime. It just didn't show that it dropped violent crime. So like the differentiation is like everybody's like, well, didn't do anything for violent crime. It's like that was one thing of the crime it didn't do, but everything else went way down.
Oh yeah.
So crime was at an all-time high.
It was drug offense. That's where you had a bunch of people go to prison for long periods of time for drug offenses, because that's more or less what it was worried about. It was worried about the violent crime, but violent crime came from the drugs.
Right, but they were just trying to say that it didn't stop violent crime.
Oh.
But crime overall as a whole did dip down.
Yeah. Well, you take a percentage of the population and put them in jail.
Basically, the 3-strike rule was already in play, and with the 94 Crime Bill,
I thought that was only in like California, like certain states.
It might have been, so it might not have been federalized. But basically, like
it did it for everybody, and then mandatory minimums.
Yeah, mandatory minimums. So no matter what the judge felt, if like the circumstance, he had to give you.
Yeah, no matter what the judge said, like even if the judge was like, it's your first time, they're like, nah, bro, he gets 5 to 7.
Yeah,
or something like that.
There'd be like like a little bag of like a dime bag of weed, and like it's like
and the judge is like
someone. I was just watched a little snip of a lady who did like years for like $40 worth of weed.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like,
and that's why I told you, I was like, I would be super pissed nowadays to know that weed is damn near legal, and it's a fucking a misdemeanor offense if the cop wants to give you a ticket for it.
Yeah,
like if you don't put out the blunt in certain places, like if you're smoking, you can smoke in front of them and like, hey, put you're around private property. You take that somewhere else and put it out right now.
One of the snips that I was telling you about, or was going to tell you about, was this guy. Is an old white dude, and he went to jail for like 17 years for a dime bag.
Oh, don't doubt it.
And when he got out, he was like, the first thing he said, like reporters were there and this, that, and the other. He's like, look, there's a lot of people in there still right now for like a joint doing 20 years, this, that, and the other. He's like, it's ridiculous. And this is already when they were starting to mess around with legalizing it. But these guys just sort of forgot about to rot away. Now that's something that's like, oh, well, it's legal and like,
it's not a big deal anymore. We're not even stressing it. Like, yeah, but you did for like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it's like you can't just not let those.
I should say 30, not even 20.
It's
30.
just such a weird thing that we won't, let people out of jail for something that's now legalized. You know what I mean?
Well, see, and that's where people say, yeah, well, this is racist and this is bias. And I mean, there are things that are racist and biased, man. You just can't get around it. It's like, and this 94 crime bill, I think, was it Biden even before that, like in 77 or some shit, was saying like schools, like, I don't know if it was not integration, but something weird where he called it like jungle, something like it'll be a jungle school or something shit.
Oh,
like that.
yeah. Joe Biden said a lot of racist stuff over the time.
Oh, Joe Biden has said whatever.
Yeah, very, very underhanded. So a big thing that gets knocked on is like say you lived in a certain area, and a Republican idea was always that you could change schools, like you could go to any school. They stopped that. So like unless you have to be in a zone.
Yep.
And they wanted it that way.
And then it's a mother some years ago. She went to you had the kid. So they try to use an example. I think it's fame and richness on one side because they used the people who basically paid for their kids to go into college just recently who got in trouble and got like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And then you had this mother of like however many, like 3 or 4 kids, whatever. She used like a friend or a relative's address so her kids could go to a better school, and they gave her multiple years in prison for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait. She can't just pay a fine or probation and just the kid has to go to a shitty school. You're going to take their mother away. Like now that situation right there, now what you have done is you have created an issue for this family. Because if she's the primary breadwinner and the primary parent, now you have an issue because now her kids, like shit, they say, what is it? Without a man, a mother and a father in the house, you have a huge percentage of, doing crime, getting in trouble, not finishing school. Now take away both parents because your mother tried to get you into a better school and a better school district. And they fucking gave her years in prison. And they've done it to multiple people. And it's like, you clearly want these people to, you want certain people to fail. You want, and if you want to take race out of it, you want poor people to fail.
Yeah. So I looked it up, and the 3 strikes you're out was part of the 94 crime bill. So
yeah, I was going to say, I know, because that's what it introduced mandatory minimums, 3 strikes you're out, and then it also brought more police to schools.
And that was another thing is they talked about how much it was like over 100,000 more cops. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest problem with it is how that also paved the way for corporatizing prisons.
Oh, yeah, so privatizing prisons. Yep.
If you have an area that is dependent on a prison.
They gave more money for prisons, actually.
Right, but the point is, okay, and this is actually
a small town. There's a lot of small towns who
Huntington, Pennsylvania is a small town and is a prison.
Really?
And they actually, in Pennsylvania, they stayed in the yellow phase because of the prison population having COVID.
Oh, it is.
And even though they were a confined area, but the prison guards,
they're so small,
the prison guards, so they kept that they kept them in the yellow phase for extra long. But again, you have an area where if you're sent to prison and that area thrives
off the prison, you better believe they're going to make sure there's going
to be people in there.
Like I was telling you, remember I told you about the judge who, and this is some years back, but it's been brought up recently. He just got 28 years in prison himself because he was basically selling kids off. We're talking about he was a juvenile.
You say he got 25 years?
28.
28.
Yeah. I think he might have been in Pennsylvania. I think it was one of you guys.
Probably.
It was yeah.
Judge gets 28-year prison sentence.
There his punk ass is.
How do you think you say that name? Opted out to go to trial the following year. He was convicted on 12 counts of 39 counts and sentenced to 28 years in federal prison. In the wake of the scandal, Supreme Court of Pennsylvania turns hundreds of audacious and delinquent into Lorenz County. Kids for Cash scandal. Look it up, guys.
But he basically was trumping up in the charge. If you had a shoplifting from the goddamn convenience store, he was giving you like
hard time,
felony theft or some stupid like that. Like he was giving time and sending these kids like just sending, especially like the poor ones. It's like they have public defenders or they don't, saying they can't afford it, stuff like that. Public defenders can be some of the worst people in the world. Actually, they can be some of the best ones, but some of the worst because they'll just tell you to plead out almost every time. Like, look, we'll plead out to get a couple years or whatever. But that's what I'm saying. It was like that guy, and it's so funny because he's not the only one. He just was like got the most time.
But you can't have a publicly traded company be a prison company.
Like
that was actually part of the documentary 13. Is like, okay, first off you have the prison system, right? Well, then you have the laundry system that supplies the uniforms, and then you have this the next
food,
tier of the food
yep.
service, and they're like, oh well, we're giving like the crappiest the crap food, and we're making tons of money off it,
yep.
and then you got everything from like vehicles to like the toothbrushes,
call centers.
Yeah,
remember I told you about call centers?
Well,
they got call centers.
So actually, something we used to do with the Fastenal land is you could actually sign up for like and pay prison. Yeah, you could pay prisoners to do like if you wanted gloves packed.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know.
You could do it with like mental health, and you could also do it with prisoners. There's two different options because like when we used to do those SSA kits, remember?
Yeah.
So instead of having a part-timer to hire them, we tried to balance to see if it would be cheaper if we had...
So send it to the prisoners?
Yeah,
really?
to have it... They would pack it all up, put it in the kits, and we would just go pick them up. Yeah, it was something we looked into that they would do down in Baltimore. But like stuff like crazy. They would like... And we had like the gloves, and those gloves, we used to have to wrap up those crap gloves and try to like have them do all that little kitting stuff that we used to have to do so we didn't have to kit.
And they get about what 10, 20 cents a day or something crazy
like something
that?
Stupid. And the prison
or hour, I think.
The prison, would get the rest of the money, but the problem is like people are profiting off of people being in jail.
That's where people say it's new slavery.
It is 100%.
Yeah. I was like and it's funny because and if you ever watch it, was it Adam Ruins something like? That's a guy who like Adam ruins the internet. Adam ruins
Adam ruins everything.
Yeah, Adam ruins everything. He, but he brought it up, and he was like the privatizing of prisons. He's like, because now, especially in these smaller communities, he's like, what happens is once they put that private prison there, you have to keep it filled. You have to have those beds filled.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, then that county or city or whatever is going to be penalized, 500,000, 300,000. They'll be penalized monetarily, and if it keeps happening, obviously they're going to like. I don't know if they'll shut them down because I'm like, how do you just move a whole prison? You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like when you have that, when you have not only incentive because they get kickbacks for keeping the beds full and stuff like that, but when you also have a penalty for not keeping those beds full, well, what the fuck do you think is going to happen in that area or surrounding areas that send people to that prison? It's like, well, now this area is going to be known for being the stiffest on crime and, getting the harshest sentences because, now if they don't, like, if the judge is not in on it, if the prosecutors, like the prosecutor has to be in on it, the judge has to be in on it, the police department, maybe they're not officially, but now they're told, hey, man, we got to get this many arrests. And, the quota shit, that's where it comes from because it all stems from money because it's either like, especially, and it's funny because I didn't want to jump over the topic of the statistics. That's where the police department gets so much money. Well, they have to prove that they need that money, that they need $6 billion in New York. Well, how do you do that? Well, you get arrested, you keep the crime down, you do all these things. It's like you write tickets, citation, all that. It's like it all plays a part. It's all part of the prison industrial complex because it's like that's the problem. But also with the 94 crime bill, it put more police in the school. So you have the schools that are doing worse, that are underfunded already. The teachers really don't give a damn. The school's falling apart. Shit doesn't work. Books are horrible. Well, now you throw cops in there because they already had issues, but now you throw more cops in there. So now what happens is when you might have got a regular suspension, you might have got like in-school suspension, slap on the wrist, now you're getting arrested.
Yeah.
And now you have court date. Now your mother who, if you're part of a single parent family and she's working 2 jobs, well, now she has to take off and now you got public defense. Now you're a part of this system. But all you did was the same shit that if you were in a richer school, maybe not even a teacher or somebody or a guidance counselor like, you're in trouble.
Right.
Come back in a couple of days. Or,
Right.
we're gonna make you do this. It's like, but they just automatically hit these poor people with real life situations.
Yeah.
As fucking teenagers or even in goddamn middle school. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's been, there's so many videos of like these cops roughing up these kids, 12, 13, 14 years old,
Oh yeah.
And it's fucked up. Like, but that's what happens. Like, this 94 crime bill brought a lot of shit in because that's what the prison, the school to prison pipeline comes from. Because it's like I said, the kid who would normally just got suspended is now going to jail for, like you say, he's fighting. Well, now he's going to jail for assault and all this other shit. Because we've seen kids beat up other kids and they get in trouble. Like, especially in more suburban areas, you get in trouble. You don't like, unless the parents press charges. Like, if you just beat a kid up and he gets a busted lip or, he does maybe a lump or two here and you guys go both home, both get suspended or whatever, that's what it is. It's like, but in the other situation, now you got an assault case. It's like, well, you did the same shit that this kid did, and that's where the shirt you had, same crime, different time.
Oh,
it's like, because it's treated differently.